I think that probably the most notable change in consumer behavior this year has been the degree to which the attention is focused onto investment bars and coins away from specific jewelry pieces. I think that's been for many reasons. Clearly, one has been price, but that price has also been driven to many extent by the threats throughout the world, whether that's increasing in debt, whether it's the friction between nation states, whether it's become just plain economic threats. But the main driver for people to perhaps shift towards investment bars and coins has been this tension throughout the world. And I think that's been felt by people who are inherent jewelry buyers, but have overlooked the price rises recently and decided that they want to do it for diversifying their portfolios and simply hold gold in a different form. And you've seen that not just in bars and coins, but you've seen that by the growth in the ETF industry over the course of the last 12 months as well. So that slack has been taken up. I think that's been the biggest shift over the last 2 years that we've noted. Well, I think it's probably the artisanal gold problem throughout the world. It is 20 to 30 million people are engaged in artisanal gold production throughout the world. Its yearly value is at $130 billion. And that $130 billion, a vast proportion of that finds its way into the hands of bad actors. And what I'm dedicated to doing is trying to redirect that flow away from bad actors by introducing technology and processing plants and official buying throughout the countries who are, shall we say, burdened by artisanal mining throughout the world. And so while we have a fantastic formal large-scale gold mining industry that we can be very proud of, we also have this artisanal gold mining problem throughout the world that will never go away, and we're not planning to make it illegal. You can't. People need to eat, and who's going to stop them doing that? But at the same time, I would like to bring that industry into a formal structure such that all that gold that is currently going to the hands of very bad actors in the world finds its way into the formal system. And if we do that, the upstream effects would be that these miners no longer use mercury, they no longer pollute their own environments, you will get fewer children in mines, there'll be no women trafficked, which all happens in conjunction with this practice, and we'd start to eradicate it from the world. So that is the dark underbelly of the gold industry, but there's no point pretending it's not there. So what I'm absolutely dedicated to doing is trying to change it. Integrity. The integrity of the supply chain. The one thing that the gold industry must protect and enhance and build on is integrity of gold, full stop. Where has it come from? How has it been responsibly produced? Back in 2022, with working alongside the London Bullion Markets Association, we set up a database for all responsibly sourced gold. And the reason is I'd come from another industry, I'd come from investment banking. And quite simply, I asked myself, where do I go to check the integrity and provenance of the gold I buy? And quite simply, there was no answer because no one had ever set up a database for responsibly sourced gold. So quite simply, that's what we did. And now I'm very pleased to say, and it still has a long way to grow, but I'm very pleased to say that all large-scale newly produced mines, gold, is going into the database. We have all my 33 large-scale miners on the database. The London Bullion Markets Association have all 104 of their refiners on the database, etc. And all the large banks and institutions around the world are coming on. At some point, this database will be so ubiquitous that you and everyone else listening to me today will have this app on their phone. And they will be able to check at some point the origination, the integrity, and the responsible sourcing criteria that their gold has. And I think if you sit outside my database at some point in the future, perhaps years away, but in the future, and you do not have your gold in the database, your market for your gold will slowly but surely shrink. and you're going to start regretting that your gold is not in my database. Am I meaning to scare them? Yes, I am. I'm trying, because that is the way of the future. First part of the question, I think younger people are far more willing to accept electronic forms of gold than my generation, as an example. And just for instance, I will use the ETF, the Exchange Traded Fund, as an example. Many people, particularly in India, have got instant access to phones. 1.5 billion people, largely speaking, have a phone, but a very small proportion of them even know an ETF exists, and that they can buy gold effortlessly with touching their phone to a receptacle. I'm hoping that over the course of the next few years, the acceptance of that form of buying gold as an alternative to other forms of buying gold, not to exclude it, but I think a younger generation are going to be far more willing and able to accept the concept of using their phone to buy electronic gold in ETF form, hold it in ways, and in physical form and jewelry, they'll still do that, but they'll be far more open-minded to the idea of buying and holding an electronic exchange-traded fund, which is incredibly cheap and secure, is backed by physical gold, and there are many of them out there, and it's a wonderful way of actually holding gold. And I think that India is in a unique, well, one of the most unique situations in the world, such that you have an enormous number of people and you're coming at it from a very low base. So you've got a great opportunity to bring all those people into the gold market with a new product. Jewelry they're used to, investment bars and coins they're used to, their parents hearing about it. But ETFs, this is a young person's thing, and it's super cool. This is the funny thing. I would change the name from Exchange Traded Fund to something really cool and funky. But I can't for the life of me think what the alternative to Exchange Traded Fund is that is cool and funky. But if I honestly think that one simple thing, and I believe back in 2000, 2003, they called ETF, somebody chose bees, B-E-E-S, as in buzzing bees. So gold bees, if that would replace ETFs, I think many young kids and people would understand it and love it far more. So maybe that's the simple answer as that. But for now, I'm afraid we're stuck with ETF. IAGES. The IAGES, the institute that we've set up in India, which I've just this second walked away from talking to the CEO, that we've introduced into India, which is going to raise the standards of both wholesale and retail gold in this country and every other country in its various forms. It was born of an idea some 6 years ago when I was introduced, when I first joined the World Gold Council, and I was introduced to literally 50 jewelers over the course of 2 days, one after another. And they all said three things. Firstly, they said, "Can you give us marketing dollars?" And I went, "Maybe." The second one, they asked for innovation dollars, and I said, "Possibly." And the third one they asked for, which really surprised me, and they asked for a degree of leadership, which I hadn't expected, because they're all very competitive peers and there are many associations, but they kept leapfrogging each other and it didn't really work. And I said, okay, we will set up a body that will supersede all others because we are not conflicted, and we will fund it. And this will be the overarching body for your industry that will diffuse standards down through the wholesale industry such that the retailers operate to a very high standard and get accredited. And then we will tell the population of India what we've done so that the population know when they walk up to a jeweler's, well, there's two jewelers, one is accredited and one isn't, you know the risks you're taking. And that's what we're rolling out across the country. And we're making great progress, but at some point, it's very important for the average guy in the street to be aware of this and check whether their retailer, wholesaler, has been accredited and is one of the good guys, because that's very important, otherwise you're risking your money. Well, this might sound counterintuitive, but I think there is a real danger through adjusting business models to lower caratage gold driven by the price rise. Now, you would expect me to say that because I represent gold production. I do understand that, and I don't want to sound disingenuous, but I seriously think the epitome of gold is its intrinsic value and its weight and its purity. That is what makes it special. The more you dilute that, the more you're removing its core essence. And I would urge many retailers, manufacturers, and purchasers to defer buying until you can buy the purest forms of gold and maintain that standard. And so I would say one of the quickest races to the bottom for the gold industry or the gold retailing and wholesaling industry would be to keep diluting and compromising and hollowing out their own products in order, and I understand it though, in order to make that next sale. There needs to be a standard maintained, there needs to be a value maintained. We all know what it's like to, that beautiful weight, it's that uniqueness, and if you compromise there, it's a hard one to retrieve it. And so I would urge everybody in this industry to try and maintain that purity and that wonder that is gold. I don't believe that there is any one particular thing. I think the artisanal work I mentioned is something that I need to re-reference. I don't think the retailers or the buyers of gold are letting anybody down. I just think the industry as a whole, the globe, the people responsible for the world, politicians, the big bodies, the G7, G20, need to get ahead of this. We have a real problem on our hands, not just because this gold that stays outside the informal system and ends up in the hands of bad guys, very bad people. That is a problem in itself. But there is an extra massive problem in that the watercourses of many of the Central African countries and Central American countries are being literally destroyed as we speak. And if we were able to introduce the World Gold Council's proposals across the world, we would save these countries. This is much bigger than gold per se. Who would have believed that many of these countries would be scared of a rising gold price, even though they are gold producers? Many of them are, because they fear that as that gold price goes up, the people within the country might migrate and start digging, and so destroy what is left of their water. And so the international community needs to wake up to this very, very quickly. Of course, the average retailer, the average person in the street is unaware of this, but this is the main problem that the gold industry as a whole has and needs to address with top of government political help, please.